Hello, my name is Joe Boyle, and as part of the Future of Artificial Intelligence course, Assignment 2, the topic that I've chosen for Assignment 2 and the later report on Assignment 4 is the future of AI, content and compliance. Okay, so some background here as to why I chose this particular topic. I would have a vested interest in it as my role currently within a technology organization is a content engineering leader, which means I would lead a team of technical writers. And just as a caveat or a note that this presentation would mainly be focused on technical content in a tech organization as opposed to any other type of organization that's delivering Gen AI powered tools and search and chatbot experiences. So we've started to surface our own content using generative AI tooling. And in the interest of self-preservation, I suppose, I want to ensure that the organization I work for is aware of the critical role that I believe my team plays and will play in this process in the future. And technical documentation teams may become even more critical to tech organizations if regulatory requirements and compliance require strict adherence to certain AI acts. So that's just the background and the context. And to go back to the slide, so yeah, like the future of the content creation landscape, given obviously the rise of content experiences that are driven by LLM generated responses. These have proliferated wildly now in the tech industry. So with that, I believe, and other content leaders, I'm sure across the industry, see an opportunity that has come about for content teams to fill a much needed role here, which would mean we would be guardians of the data. So like technical writing teams are already guardians of the content that they write. It gets heavily reviewed, re-reviewed, they get peer reviews on it, technical reviews from SMEs, and they only publish when it's signed off by technical owners. So like until now, the content that documentation teams deliver is being surfaced in what we call a more traditional way, which would just be your like bog standard support site or online help, and the writers would actually publish it themselves and often hope to be decoupled from engineering processes or code pushes. So why now do we believe there is an opportunity? It's because organizations that are delivering these types of Gen AI and LLM powered chatbots and search experiences need access to large amounts of quality training data. And I've highlighted quality there, is that we already have quality built in to our content repositories, technical documentation teams. We want to position our technical content as the training data for all these experiences. We're literally sitting on a gold mine of information there, content repositories at the center of everything in all these experiences. So yeah, like I said there, the data already exists. We just need to make sure that the engineer teams that are delivering these features and Gen AI experiences to customers are aware of it and avail of that data. So I believe the opportunity will be realized when organizations need to comply with regulations, and I've called out the EU AI Act there, but there's other AI Acts that I will look at in the report that's coming in Assignment 4. But that actually states that providers of AI models must publish a sufficiently detailed summary about the content used for training the general purpose AI model. So that's where we come in. So yeah, why I believe this topic is important is because, first of all, it should ensure that organizations are forced to place content quality at the heart of their AI strategy, and that selfishly, that may keep me in a job with any help. So yeah, I'll move on to the next slide about the areas of interest that I'm going to look into. So yeah, as part of the report that's coming in assignment 4, these are just some of the areas that I'm going to delve into. So the transformative effects of content compliance on this area in terms of content and content delivery and content creation. We got content teams are going to be seen and content repositories are going to be seen in a new light. Documentation can no longer be ignored. For a long time in the industry, documentation teams probably have been ignored. The documentation was only a problem when there was a problem, when those bugs or those incorrect information. Otherwise, it was almost like, we won't bother you if you don't bother us. So yeah, like the other cross-functional teams that we'd interact with, like engineering teams and product management teams, were blissfully unaware of our tools, our processes, and the inbuilt quality that comes with that content. Is that going to change drastically? I believe it will, and I believe content teams need to be ready why they're going to be critical to AI strategy in tech organizations. So we're kind of just waiting here for the penny to drop industry-wide, and I believe that's going to happen because of regulations such as the EU AI Act, and we need to be there then to ensure documentation is accurate and complete and tailored to the correct persona. So in terms of the second bullet there on the left-hand side, the content update process won't only be a problem for documentation teams, because if they're using our content, which changes frequently as the training data for their models, they need to make sure that they pick those updates up. One of the things that I stress to my team is Gen AI cannot automatically update content. It cannot create new content. So it's not going to move or change with the addition of new features in a product. So it's static. So there's going to need to be engineering investment to allow non-technical people in organizations, such as technical writers, to correct and edit incorrect content that was generated by an LLM, and then use those corrections to retrain or fine-tune the model. So that's one of the areas as well about updates that content teams will probably get involved in, I believe. And then the last bullet on the left-hand side, new content requirements for organizations to comply with regulations. Again, going back to the EU AI Act, which says all providers must provide technical documentation, instructions for use, and publish a summary about the content they've used for training. So that's probably where teams like my own come in. Technical documentation teams will be asked to produce that documentation. So then with the impact on content creation processes, so this is like the drafting of technical documentation, how is that going to transform with the incoming regulations that we envisage? It may fundamentally change that process completely. Writers almost exclusively are the ones that publish content to support sites, etc. Maybe that might not happen anymore, as engineering teams will pull it directly from a repository, and it'll be surfaced using Gen AI tools like a Gen AI chatbot. So then writers become creators versus authors. The line I use with my team as well, related to the last bullet, is we'll still write for humans, but we might need to structure our content for machines. So like the content will still be written as if it's going to be consumed by a human, but the metadata and the tooling we use to produce that content may change. So to the final slide here about risk, and this is going back again to the topic itself around compliance. So organizations need to take this seriously, how to mitigate risk with these types of experiences for their customers. So, like, moving towards content repositories as the training data hub, like everything is built around that central content repository, which is maintained by technical documentation teams, could address certain problems. The first is that a lot of these acts around compliance talk about penalties for non-compliance with these requirements. So having content repositories at the heart of your AI strategy would meet a lot of the regulatory requirements. So you'd avoid those fines. Headlines such as this on the right hand side, this came from a BBC News site, the headline about the chatbot that gave incorrect information to a traveller, and the airline argued that the chatbot was responsible for its own actions. The reason I'm saying you could avoid headlines such as this is because if it's trained on quality data, then this type of thing shouldn't happen. So, you know, the chatbot promised a discount that wasn't available. That came from somewhere, and it came from content that probably wasn't vetted correctly. And then there's an article there that I've referenced from Deloitte, which talks about the need for content stewards, and talks about, you know, the emergence of new roles and responsibilities, which is kind of a refreshing sentiment in this day and age when we're hearing the opposite quite a bit, is that we're going to be replaced. So organizations will need skilled professionals who can bridge the gap between data science and governance, and ensuring responsible AI development and deployment. That's a role that could actually be filled by a content strategist or a technical author that was sufficiently skilled or technical, could actually fill that role. And so, yeah, like in terms of mitigating risk, the EU, going back to the same act again, the AI Act in the EU talks frequently and heavily about minimizing risk. Using quality training data from a central content repo minimizes that risk greatly. And it instructs organizations to design their AI systems to allow people who deploy those systems to implement human oversight. Again, that's where writers would come in. If it's a regulatory requirement for human oversight, there is nobody better placed to oversee the quality of the training data that's coming from a content repository than the writers themselves. And it also talks about having a quality management system to ensure compliance. We already have quality management systems when we create our content, so that's inbuilt, and it would automatically ensure compliance. So that's where I think content teams could come in and mitigate risk almost immediately if they're involved in the conversation and they have a seat at the table. So thank you for listening. I couldn't fit too much into those few slides, but as a next step, obviously, I plan to analyse further AI acts across the EU and North America, look at the effect it's already having on the design of some Gen AI powered content solutions. Probably only scratched the surface here in this few minutes, but I'm looking forward to examining the area in more detail, and hopefully the aim is that it will equip me with enough knowledge to impact AI content strategy in my own organisation. So I'm looking forward to it. So thanks very much.